Hey, what's up? Tim Cant here, and in this video I'm going to take a look at atmospheric drum and bass. First I'm going to delve into the history and culture of the music, and then I'm going to break down one of my tracks, which is available for pre-order now, link in the description. Also in the description, chapter markers and a playlist of all the tunes mentioned. So without further ado, let's go. Atmospheric drum and bass is a direct evolution of hardcore rave. You can hear the roots of Atmo DnB in tracks as early as The Black Dog's Virtual, a breakbeat techno track which Discogs lists as being from 1989.
World, I sit in my room, imagine the future.
Virtual was very much ahead of its time, featuring a relatively high BPM of just under 130, a combination of pure breakbeats and 4x4 beats, bouncing percussive bass and digital pads. Virtual was an influence on the early jungle sound, with both Joe and DJ Junk sampling the track for Dark Side tunes in late '93. Another influential early tune is Open Mind Body Force, a Joey Beltran production from 1990 that also paired digital pads and breakbeats to great effect. It seems like this tune was a big influence on a young LTJ Bookham, specifically on one of his tracks on his first release, 1991's Delightful. A 4-track EP of tunes sampling Delight's house track Good Beat, mostly mashed up with other contemporary tracks. One version was a Body Force style track complete with big breaks, Korg M1 Universe pads, and a big 808 style bassline. I would argue this version is the earliest track that can be identified as proto-atmospheric DnB, but it would be a couple of years until the formula was truly refined. In the meantime, LTJ Bookham founded his own label, Good Looking, and continued to make techno-influenced, forward-looking hardcore tracks such as Demon's Theme, Listen, and his remix of Apollo 2's Atlantis. LTJ Bookham aside, there are a few tracks that I think stand out as good examples of proto-atmo. Liquid's Liquid is Liquid remix from 1992 on XL Recordings, Body Snatch's The Strength, NeuroQuest from 1993 on Big City, and Omni Trio's Feel Good, also from 1993, on Candidate Recordings and later Moving Shadow. These records stood out from their contemporaries, focusing on creating deep, mysterious atmospheres that contrasted with the predominantly happy or dark binary of the hardcore at the time. Feel Good appears to be influenced by PBB's Dum Diddly Dum, a breakbeat house track from the US released in 1992. Dum Diddly Dum's combination of hot pants beats and two-note bossa-esque bassline would also crop up in another important record. In 1993, LTJ Bookham released Music, a track which crystallised the primordial atmospheric DnB sound and challenged the hardcore rave scene to reach new creative heights. Music is the first bona fide atmospheric DnB record. Its release represents year zero for atmospheric DnB, codifying its most important tropes with its clean breakbeats, rolling, percussive 808 bassline, sustained atmospheric chords, and a running time of over 10 minutes. Combining the energy of hardcore rave with the depth of techno, the atmosphere of ambient, and the emotion of house, Music created a template for atmospheric DnB that would be hugely influential over the following 30 years, and it's certainly one of the most influential pieces of underground music of all time. Back in 1993, the influence of Music could be heard right away in tracks such as DJ Crystal's Meditation, Deep Blue's The Helicopter Tune, and Engineers Without Fear's Spiritual Aura. Another track from this era of this ilk is Omni Trio's remix of JMJ and Rich's Hall of Mirrors, which features a beat and bass line very similar to Music and Omni Trio's own Feel Good. By late 1993, the nascent jungle/drum and bass scene was developing at an incredible pace, with the style absorbing and recontextualizing a broad array of influences. From the raw emotional minimalism of Omni Trio's bleak Renegade Snares roasted roll-in mix, to the lush, jazzy sampling of Ronnie Size and DJ Dye's music box, drum and bass was entering a belle epoque, where musical innovation was outpacing even the early hardcore rave era. Was this period of astonishing fecundity anything to do with the fact that the rave scene was, at this point, deeply unfashionable in the mainstream? I would say yes, and point to records such as 1994's Essence, Jazz Testament by Blame and Justice as evidence. It's a psychedelic fusion of Detroit techno vibes, jazzy synth sax noodling, and deep drum and bass grooves. I don't think records like this would have existed had rave continued to increase in mainstream popularity. By 1994, atmospheric DnB was in the ascendancy in the underground DnB scene, and buoyed by the success of releases such as Renegade Snares and Music, Moving Shadow and Good Looking put out classic after classic at this point. Tracks like Foul Play's Being With You, Easy Roller's Believe, and Higher Sense's Cold Fresh Air remix on Moving Shadow, and Aquarius aka Photek's Aquatic, Pesce's Piano Tune, and Parallel Worlds' Contagious on Good Looking. In late 1994, Bookham and Fabio launched their seminal club night Speed at London's Mars Bar. Here forward-thinking DnB was the focus, unlike, say, Dreamscape raves, where you'd hear everything from bouncy techno to jump up. I was a bit young to go to Speed myself, but by all accounts its existence aided DnB in developing a yet more sophisticated and experimental sound. By 1995, there were many other labels pushing the atmospheric sound forward, including Fabio's Creative Source, Basement Records, Precious Material, Renegade Recordings, Expressive, Metalheads, Street Beats, Lucky Spin, DJ and Timeless Recordings, amongst others. On a personal note, while I already knew and loved tracks by PFM and LTJ Bookham, having heard them played out by DJs like Kenny Ken on Kiss FM's Jungle Show, I didn't really know much about atmospheric DnB until Bookham himself played the show. On the 26th of July 1995, I heard Bookham play Kiss for the first time, and what I heard absolutely blew my mind. I could wax lyrical about it at length, but instead I suggest you check out the show for yourself, and there's a link in the description. In 1996, Good Looking Records partnered with London Records dance imprint FFRR to release the compilation album Logical Progression, a collection of new and classic tracks from Good Looking Records and its sister label Looking Good. And this also featured a mix from LTJ Bookham, featuring tracks from his labels and others, including Moax, Heart House, Moving Shadow, Photek and DJ Recordings. A certified banger, Logical Progression was a worldwide success, and helped the sound be heard globally. Another essential listen, I recommend tracking down a copy for the full experience, as generally the versions you'll find on YouTube have tracks cut for copyright reasons. Around this time Bookham launched his own club night, Logical Progression. I was now old enough to attend Logical Progression nights at both Ministry of Sound and Turnmills. Logical Progression remains my favourite rave to this day. The music was excellent, the crowd was diverse and chill, the MCing, primarily provided by longtime Bookham collaborator Conrad, was top notch, and the venues were cool. At the end of 1996, Good Looking released Earth Volume 1, which included a mix of both fresh, atmospheric DnB gems and many down-tempo tracks with a more chilled-out instrumental hip-hop flavour, the first of their many forays into loungy chill-out vibes. The Good Looking organisation was really smashing it, and in addition to Good Looking and Looking Good, they began to launch various sub-labels. 1997 saw the arrival of PhD's Ascendant Grooves, Blame 720, Taylor's Nexus, and Intense's short-lived Diverse Recordings, which sadly and ironically only had a single release. 1997 also saw the release of Logical Progression Level 2, this time mixed by Blame, and his mix took the atmospheric DnB sound into even deeper cosmic territory. In 1997, atmospheric DnB, itself a subgenre of DnB, was already developing distinct subgenres itself. The jazz sound had always been a big part of this style, and the early Creative Source releases by artists such as Carlito and Big Bud exemplify this flavour. While some jazzy DnB leaned more into jazz musically with more complex beats and chord progressions, the four-hero project Jacob's Optical Stairways Fragments of a Lost Language is a good example of this. straight up jazzy atmospheric DnB tended to revolve more around less involved chord sequences and groove focused beats, like Carlito's Heaven. The more spacey, techno-inspired sound of Logical Progression 2, retrospectively dubbed Technospheric DnB, was a contrast to this, at least in terms of the sonic textures used. I feel Techno DnB is best exemplified by a pair of Scottish DnB acts, Future Engineers and KMC, who created a very specific and evocative sonic palette on tracks such as Life Support and Alpha Centauri. These tracks feature one-shot beats rather than jungleistic breaks, plus overtly synthetic-sounding musical elements, giving them a unique feel. In the early 21st century, the term drum funk, popularised by Paradox, came to be used to describe drum and bass tunes with a primarily organic feel and funky chop breaks, and I'd argue that this genre has its roots in jazzy and atmospheric DnB. Alaska and Seba's Back from Eternity is a great mix of atmospheric and drum funk flavours. Likewise, liquid funk, a term popularised by Fabio around the turn of the millennium, refers to a specific flavour of jazzy DnB with an energetic dance floor friendly feel. Though these days those words have commercial connotations, the liquid funk certainly didn't have back then. Primary Motive, Who Has the Jazz, is a good example of this style, and it's easy to see the roots of stuff like the accessible sound of Hospital records in tracks like this. The meaning of liquid funk became watered down over the following decades, and now liquid DnB can refer to the jazzy, atmospheric sound of labels like Jazzsticks, or the more poppy stuff like releases on Liquicity, which are pretty different. Getting back to the late 90s, atmospheric DnB reached its peak production value-wise, with Good-Looking's increasingly slick cover art by the likes of Nick Purse from Propeller, culminating in a series of beautiful double-pack vinyl EPs. While some feel that atmospheric DnB was losing its shine at this point, my love for this era has only increased with time, and for me tracks such as Intensis Solar, Bookham's Twilight Voyage and Blue Martin's Santerre are timeless classics. Good Looking really made hay while the sun shone with tons of Logical Progression follow-ups, the Progression Sessions mix series, and tons of compilation album releases on the various sub-labels, but after the millennium, things gradually began to wind down. By this point, atmospheric DnB had been overtaken in popularity by liquid funk and the yet harder edge takes on the DnB sound provided by the likes of Bad Company and Pendulum. However, there were a few Atmo DnB labels pushing the sound, notably Focus. These days Focus focuses on an accessible, musical DnB sound, but when it started it was a straight-up techno label, and releases such as Drum Origin's Oracle and Jay Lazy's Zero are real Atmo bangers. Another label, Cadence, put out some great stuff during this era, particularly from Aural Imbalance, who's consistently been releasing Atmo bangers to this very day. That said, there was a dearth of Atmo DnB during the noughties, though things began to pick up again towards the end of the decade, with labels such as Fusion Digital, Warm Communications, Offworld, Spearhead, Soul Deep, Urban Chemistry and the various Triple Vision labels bridging the gap between classic atmospheric and contemporary liquid sounds. I feel like there are a ton of lesser known gems from around 2010, tracks like Seba's Dangerous Days, Fernie's Wasted Dreams and Thesis's Dreamscaper. I have to shout out a few of the artists and labels who helped keep the sound going during this era. So big ups to Scott Allen, Nookie, Soul Structure, Row Pieces, Madcap, Big Bud, Blade, Physics, Greek Boy, Inner Self, Eschaton and Paul SG, amongst others, for keeping the spirit of classic jazzy and atmospheric DnB alive. Since the lockdowns of the early 2020s, many genres of music have had something of a revival, and old school style atmospheric DnB is one of them. Distinct from contemporary liquid DnB in that it's slower, with less of a focus on loud, hyper-engineered production and more space in the mix for atmospherics, Atmo DnB now seems to have its own mini-scene with labels like Violet Nights, Okbron, Deep Jungle and Spatial not just putting out music, but actually delivering full-on vinyl releases. Even some veteran artists from back in the day such as Jamie Myerson and KMC have been making new music, and the scene is in a great place. It's a good time to be an atmospheric DnB fan, with classic re-releases like DJ Trace's By Any Means Necessary, FPD Project's Journeys and Tango Spellbound readily available, and cracking new tracks such as Future Engineer's Immersive, Oral Imbalance's Aurealis and ASC's Mirage providing fresh beats for us to get our teeth into. I was even more surprised to see younger music fans getting into atmospheric DnB, thanks in part to weird stuff like Intense's Only You becoming a meme, and people who grew up with DnB influenced PS1 and PS2 era video game soundtracks getting into making music themselves. There does appear to be a bit of confusion over what constitutes various styles, particularly over the difference between breakcore and atmospheric DnB, which I do find a bit odd as breakcore and atmospheric DnB really don't share much commonality at all. Hopefully videos like this one will make it easier for newcomers to atmospheric DnB to educate themselves about it. By listening to early atmospheric classics such as LTJ Bookham's Music and Horizons, we can hear that like other early hardcore and jungle records, they're predominantly sample based, with the addition of sampling and synthesis workstation keyboard sounds for pads and leads. So it's nothing too complex, and the great news is that sampling, processing and mixing can all be handled by any modern DAW in the box. If you're interested in making Atmo DnB, you'll likely want to use some breakbeats, and you can find out more about those in my video, A Beginner's Guide to Jungle Breakbeats. As for the pad and lead sounds, you might find my video Atmospheric DnB Pads Deconstructed interesting, as this takes a look at how these sort of sounds work. But if you're in a rush, I will say that sampling and synthesis based instruments such as the Roland JV1080 and Korg Triton are ideal for this, and these two are available in plug-in form, so check those out if you'd rather not start forking out for vintage hardware. Also, Omnisphere is awesome for this sort of thing too. If you'd like to include sampled elements like sax, flute and vocals in your tracks, then sampling from old records and sample CDs is a great way to go. And I'd recommend that over sampling from YouTube with its lossy compression algorithms. Also, Splice is good for that kind of thing, though you will have to dig a bit to find the best sounds. There are plenty of jazz-based packs on there for instrument sounds, and R&B and house packs for vocals. Okay, for this part of the video, I'm going to break down one of my tracks to show you how an atmospheric drum-based tune is made. And I'm going to do it live. Who knows what's going to happen? Nothing too awful, I hope. So this track is Chronicle, Feature Fragments. This should be available for pre-order now as part of the Time and Space EP on Curvature. Big up ASC for sorting that out. Nice one. So yeah, let's just check this tune out. So we're here in the project. You'll notice I've got a bunch of other tunes in here. That's because I do a lot of referencing. If you've checked out some of my other videos, you'll know I'm pretty evangelical about referencing. I find it terribly useful. So what have I got? I've got Aurealis by Oral Imbalance in here. I've got Mirage by ASC in here, both on Spatial, great label. Also KMC System. And the reason I referenced this tune is this tune ended up sounding a lot like System. But you know, hey, if you're gonna be influenced to a great degree by something, might as well be something good. So yeah. Listen to some KMC, it's wicked. And also, I've got one of my own tracks in here, trying to get a consistent sound. And also, when I'm finishing my tracks, I will drag them into a big project of all of those tunes of that style that I've made, and then I can kind of like really see where it sits, you know, amongst all the other stuff I've made, and I can make sure I'm getting a consistent sound that is hopefully all right. And you know, all these tracks have been routed directly to the external out, bypassing the master. Because on the master, I've got a clipper to make things nice and loud. Then I've got a gain to bring it down to. So what I've done for the pre-mastered is I've turned the clipper off. Then I've turned the gain down, so I get a nice like -6 dB out. So in fact, if we bring up Voxengo Span, you'll see if we play a bit of this, it's peaking about -6, and that's a good. Good ballpark sent to a mastering engineer. And then after that, I've got VSX, which isn't active. And I like to reference using that as well. I find VSX with the club setting, let me bring it up actually, pretty cool for kind of getting imagining what it's sounding like in a big empty club. Generally, if I'm playing out in a club, it'll be empty, so that's good to know. But anyway, yes, I mean, in all seriousness, it's good for like hearing. Making sure the beats are coming through, making sure the bass is kind of like tight enough that it'll sound all right in a kind of, relatively reverby environment. So, okay, let's look at the tunes. We've got the clipper turned off. Everything's going to be hitting a not crazy volume. That's great. So first we'll look at the beats. Beats are generally what I try and do first. Often I will end up going and redoing the beats at the end of a tune. I think with this tune, it kind of the beats were sounding all right first, and I'll tell you why, because I started out with a cracking beat that is practically cheating. So this is a breakbeat off the Breakpoints, the obscure Breakpoint sample library, and this is a breakbeat that I labelled Set Speed back in the day because it was used on a DJ Crust tune, Set Speed, funnily enough, and I believe this is the Versatile Extension remix breakbeat, but I think this is the Sandman CJ Macintosh version. Well, it doesn't really matter though, because just Versatile Extension, really. Let's have a listen. So this is from a hip hop tune. It sounds, pretty programmed to me. What I've done is I've monoized this version of the breakbeat. If I'm using the Versatile Extension original, I might do some stuff where I do a sort of like balanced mix of the left and right signals to get the right amount of shaker in. But here I've just monoized it. It sounds like they've made this break with one shots. So it makes it really nice and easy to use. It sounds clean, great. Look, I haven't even put any EQ on here. No need for compression. What have I got in the bus? I've literally just put some. Oh, look at this. Like minus less than a dB in the 4 kilohertz region. Really didn't have to do much on that. But I have layered the set speed up with some other stuff to make it sound a little bit more interesting. The first one I've got is, so that is Kid and Play, Do This My Way, and as you can hear, I've just got the shuffles and then a bit more of an obvious chicken tikka there. And that kind of like, that just gives this Versatile Extension a bit more flavour. I use this on so many tunes. I've got to spice it up a little bit, or all my tunes are just going to sound identical. What else? Okay, so then we've got this one. It's just a bit of a think breakbeat. I don't even know which version. I've got, you can see here, whereas these first two are just like making a two-step, we've got a little bit of extra interest here. And that's making things sound a tiny little bit more interesting. I wouldn't go crazy with the choppage in an Atmo tune generally. I'm just keeping it nice. Now, the fourth break. Oh, actually, let me see what process I put on those. Okay, monoizing, tiny bit of drum studio reverb on the Do This My Way, bringing out the kick and a bit of the kind of mids on the think. Nothing, not even doing anything with this utility. Now this beat is. This is off the Megabass remix sample CD from 1993. This break has been used on some Photech tune, on some Photech Chupa tune, I think it was, and also on Nookie. Inner Space, I think the tune's called. It's kind of like a really it's kind of like a brittle hot pants based sort of break, I think, really. I've got some shaperbox here. Clearly, this is just moving the volume down on the snares, because those snares were too loud. If I turn that off, I mean, that's not much of a difference, you know, really, but in the context of the mix, it made a little bit of difference. And then some EQ, literally just taking off the bottom end. I mean, if you've seen my Liquid DnB track breakdown, you'll have seen on there, I was really going to town on all like the breaks and one shots and everything. With atmospheric drum and bass, I feel if you do that, it ends up, you know, it doesn't end up having that kind of like authentic sound that I wanted. I mean, I haven't even used, if you look on the music and bass here, I haven't used even any side chaining. I mean, I'd even put side chaining on like an old school hardcore tune just to bring up the volume level. But I don't know, for old school atmospheric DnB, I like just keeping it kind of, you know, yeah, just old school feeling, really, or whatever, really. What else we got in this drum bus? We got shaker. And so we've got some, you can see there's a little bit of shuffle there. You know, this is an even numbered 16th, and it's coming a little after the beat, and it's a bit quieter, and that's creating that shuffle. So we're grooving. And then finally on the beats, what have we got here actually? Okay. Just taking off the low end on the shaker. Again, drum studio, reverb. And then we've got a ride. Now this ride is coming just straight off the JV, the jazz drum set. Nice. Just using the right channel. Loads of the low end and mids taken out there. Drum studio, reverb again. This utility doing nothing. It's just, you know, eighth notes. Nothing too crazy. Let's listen to all of that stuff together. And that's just a clean sounding, solid, unfussy beat. And that is a foundation for our track. Later on in the track, in the arrangement, you'll notice I've got some color coded stuff going on here. I think this is because I made a fill. Let's listen. Nothing too crazy there. It's just a little bit of a chop up or whatever to, you know, to keep things rolling, and that happens like 4 times in the track, basically. Okay, so now it comes to the music. So in the music section, let's go for the big main pad first of all. Let's have a look at this. So what have we got here? Okay, we're in F. Let me make sure I haven't transposed this note. We're definitely in F. This is coming off the Roland JD 800, the JD Magic preset. And what have we got going on here? We've got a low pass filter, which is really taking quite a lot off. And then I'm also taking off the bottom end. Let's hear what this actually sounds like. Oh, well, it does sound nice. Let's hear what it sounds like without all of that reduction. Oh, sounds even nicer, doesn't it? But for whatever reason, I decided, in the context of the mix, it was better to take these things out. And you know, you really want your beats to be poking through, because, hey, look, I know you might have grown up thinking drum and bass comes from video games. It's club and rave music, really. So the beats and the bass have to be loud and banging, and that, you know, loud and banging beats and bass, that is the foundation of a DnB tune. So let's have a listen to there we go. Pads and beats. I could listen to it all day, but I mustn't, because we need to look at some other elements. Okay, so we've got the foundation of our track here. In fact, let's look at this chord. So this is a C minor, and then we've got the, oh god, is that the 30? Is that the 11th in there? Okay, look, let's work this out. Root note, minor third, 5th, 7th, the 9th would be there. It's not in this tune, and that is the 11th, I guess. So we've got the 11th without the 9th. That's kind of all right, I guess, and it sounds nice and jazzy. Oh, okay, there's the whole thing. We don't need to listen to that right now. Okay, so Let's see what other elements we've got. We've got some kind of like lead string group here, I guess. Oh, God. Come on, Timmy. Keep it together. Oh, purity. Yeah, I'm a rompler connoisseur. Purity, you know, it's it's literally just called analog pad. It's got the low end taken out. This line is really very similar to System by KMC. Big up KMC, absolute legend. Then what? Oh, now look, we have Loop Cloud Play. Would you imagine I'd be using Loop Cloud Play? Well, I am. So this is just like a free rompler you get with Loop Cloud. And in fact, I talked like a few years ago when I was working for Loop Masters. I talked to the dude who made like the sounds for their rompler stuff. Because I was making some content for them or whatever. He was a really sound guy, and I think he was pretty influenced by old school John Bass, and I was really into a lot of those sounds. So I can't remember his name. Big up that guy. Anyway, he was all right. So what have we got here? This is kind of a haunting thing. It's got loads of like release on it, so I haven't even... In fact, let's go to advanced mode. Look at all this release. Yeah. So I haven't needed any delay or reverb. Oh. Musical emotions coming through. Okay, now what's this? Okay. Now, hey, great work, Timmy. This is a pad from my atmospheric pad sample pack on Polyend. Hey, look. It's not just a load of nonsense. I've used it my very self. Though I put a bit of processing on it. So let's have a listen to it without the processing and see what it does. Well, I've clearly pitched this up and looped it. And it sounds a bit odd like that. But look, I've put a bandpass filter on it, which is automated. Oh, and I've quantized the filter cutoff as well. And this quantizes it in terms of time. So it's kind of like a sample and hold thing. So you get like a kind of stepped filter effect. That does sound very nice. Even though I do say so myself, it's got the low end cutout. It's got the delay on there. It's sounding mystical. It's taking you into deep space. And that's exactly what we want to do. Okay, what else? What have we got on here? Okay, UVI Workstation is in the mix now. Synth Anthology 4, what have we got here? A KM1, I don't even know what that is. A KW8, is that Kawaii? I don't know. Whatever, it's sounding dope. Oh, and look, Soundtoys effects rack using analog chorus. I use this preset all the time. It's a great little chorus. Let's have a listen to this noise. Yeah, I mean, this is a really technospherical vibe. It's Feature Engineers, it's KMC, it's Flippin' Vangelis. Nice, I'm happy with that. Okay, now the main lead. Now this was kind of where... So I put this, I think I made this after the main pad and before everything else. This was really where I basically, the whole tune kind of like, I was like, okay, I do actually have an idea here. And it's Loop Cloud Play. Would you believe it? Breeze synth. What a sick little patch. Let me bypass these and let's have a listen. Yeah, this is really KMC inspired. It really does sound a lot like System. But hey, if you're gonna rip something off, might as well rip off a classic, am I right? So we're like F minor here. And I feel like what really gives it that, and it's, you know, we're playing a kind of arpeggio, like a broken arpeggio sort of thing. What I feel like really gives that techno feel is hitting the minor second, and then it goes up to the... Is that the minor second? Major second, whatever. It's the second, and then it goes up to the minor third. And it's that little bit of flavour that gives it the feeling. So let's listen. Techmosphere in action right there. Let's turn these effects back on. Let's hear what we got. So we've got ping pong. So this is 3/16th note ping pong, which is giving a lot of stereo. I mean, normally I'd put some utility on after something like that to take the stereo down. I haven't here. I was either feeling it or being lazy. And they've got some cathedral reverb, sounding real nice. I mean, you know, like I say, at my tunes, I don't tend to like really over-engineer like liquid DnB tunes. You know, it's sounding all right. Let's have a listen to that. I think that stereo panorama sounds nice. What have we got here? Okay, so this next sound is Capsule, which is another rompler. And I really like this sound. Let's have a listen. In fact, I'll turn the effects off. Let's see what we got here. So this is kind of like a tuned percussion sound. It sounds kind of like wet to me. It reminds me of that Quicksilver tune on Rugged Vinyl that is a little bit of a classic. Yeah, so hey, so look, this is the thing, right? You can rip off one tune. You sound like a rip-off artist. You rip off something else as well. Hey, you're onto a winner. Let's listen to that sound with some other bits on. Again, super wide, you know. You got your EQ, you got your reverb. I mean, I feel like you should be getting the idea at this point. Okay, Super 8. And look, it's the proper plugin version, not the reactor version. That's what we like to see. Good stuff. What's this one doing? Let's have a listen. Wow. This is real simple. It's just low pass, you know, saws with a low pass filter envelope on it. But, you know, I'm using a different synth here, so it's got a little bit of, you know, flavour on it. EQ, delay, reverb, bish bash bosh. What's next? The sounds keep coming. Okay, now this is a little bit more interesting. So what have we got here? Now this is sounding nice and futuristic. And it's nothing too crazy. It's EQ, delay, reverb. But let's find out, what is this sound? In fact, look, I haven't even warped it. I don't know. What is this sound? Let's just have a listen. Reveal your secrets to... Okay. Synth one-shot echo flute chords E6 sus2. Let's have a listen. Well, they'd really done all the work in this sample, hadn't they? Okay. You guys can go away. You see, this sound has got a lot of flavour in it. And I dug out that flavour with my little rodent hands and made a nice noise, basically. So, you know... And it doesn't sound, you know, it's still got the soul of that original sound, but I've mucked about with it a bit. And, you know, created a little bit of a rhythmical riffing. So, you know, a tiny bit of creativity there. You're very welcome. Okay, Super 8. Again, what's it doing? Relic, this preset is called. Oh. It's like a little sparkling spacey noise. It's really not doing too much. What is it? Sines and saw and they're filtered. Really nothing to write home about. But, you know, I'm keeping things interesting. Because if you listen to this track, you might not think, oh, there's a million ideas in there. But I do keep adding stuff in and out. And to hopefully keep it rolling. Hopefully keep it interesting. Okay. Oriental is a preset from Zebra CM. Boom. Big up Yuhi, big up Urs, big up Computer Music Magazine, big up Zebras. What's this doing? In fact, let's turn all the effects off because we got loads. It's just a really simple synth sound with low pass filter on it. I mean, look, these waveforms are like a little bit fancy, but you know, it's nothing too crazy. And then what have we got here? This will be chorus, no doubt. Yep, analog chorus. This EQ will be taking out the low end. Oh, look, I'm boosting a little bit of mid-high. Okay, then we have Ozone Imager, which is great for stereoizing stuff. Wide. More width from the ping pong. Really just rinsing the width here. And then we've got this reverb, which is a bright vocal space. All jolly good. Okay, now what have we got here? This looks like a bass line to me. Yes, it is the bass line. It's Serum, guys. The preset Tim Mello 808 Atmo. I mean, it really does what it says on the tin here. What's this bass line doing? And that is if that's a rip-off of anything, it's a rip-off of the Aqua Sky bass line from their Visible from Earth remix. Also, that same bass line used in the Dave Wallace remix of Everything But the Girl, Walking Wounded. 2 absolutely banging remixes from the Bournemouth boys, and I've appropriated their sounds for this tune. So how long is this bass line? It's 2 bars. 2 bars is a good bass line to keep things rolling. 2 bars is generally what I'd use for a liquid DnB bass line. For an Atmo tune, I might go to like 4. But here I've just got rolling 2 bars. I have varied it slightly the second time round. Okay. A little concession to being interesting there, but nothing too wild. And like I said before, no side chaining. Okay, so in the FX group, no side chaining. Oh, and then we've got a sample. Now, if you watch my videos, you'll know I'm pretty gung-ho about sampling. And my philosophy is generally, if you're small time, like me, no one cares what you do. That said, I'm trying not to dox myself, so I have removed the name of this sample because it's from some media. And, what with AI getting more and more terrifying, who knows when a Terminator's going to watch one of my videos and be like, oh, no, you can't sample that. I'm going to come and murder you. So I'm not going to tell you what this is. But hey, if you recognise it, why not? Why not dox me in the flipping comments if you're clever? In fact, I'll leave the effects on it. Try and confuse the AI as much as possible. What is this doing? And you'll notice this sample has a little bit of kind of incidental music in there. Normally, that's the sort of thing I'd try and crop out. But I believe I've pitched it around. Yes, I have. I've taken it down 2 semitones. In the context of the tune, it's sounding all right. I mean, if it was sounding all discordant and horrible, I might have messed with it. But, it's just a little bit of extra flavour for free. Okay, what's next? And that gave the track its name, Piece of Future. The track's called Future Fragments. Pretty clever. Okay, next track. Now, I believe that is a Star Trek sample from a 0G CD. I think that's like some kind of is it what are the lasers they shoot on Star Trek spaceships? Phasers? That's the one. These are the ones they shoot from their hands. I guess. Look, it's probably a phaser or some kind of Star Trek missile. Anyway. I'm sure was that sampled on LCJ Bookham Calling Out? Anyway, look, I'm not the first person to sample out. I'm pretty sure I won't be the last. But anyway, nice sound. Tons of those old Star Trek sounds are on old sample CDs. The sound design on them is absolutely wicked. 138 track. It's got big Star Trek sample on it. Classic sounds. What else we got? This just like the most generic sci-fi sound you could imagine. Really, I'm not even going to bother talking about it much more. What's this? It's just the most generic white noise sweep you could ever hope to hear. Really pushing the boundaries here. This sound's been used on a ton of old DnB tunes. I think that's off an Ecstatic Goldmine, or it's probably another 0G. Who knows? And then Crash. What's this? I think it's going to be a Crash. It's a Crash. It's pretty tasteful. Okay, that is all the noises. So, and we've covered what's on the master. So let's just look at the arrangement for a bit, and I'll just go through this real quick. Now, since I started, in fact, I found when I started DJing a bit, I mean, I wasn't really like DJing raves or whatever. I was just DJing like bars or whatever. Mainly, I've DJed a few clubs or whatever, and a couple of low key raves or whatever. Good fun. But my point is, learning to DJ really kind of helped me have a perspective on track structure. And since I started to DJ, I'd really like to do DJ friendly tunes because, like, I want to play my own tunes. I won't want them to be hard to play. And so I never used to be particularly fond of tunes that started with beats. Now that's practically all I make. And this one starts with beats. And a bit of pad. So 60 bars later, what happens? Then we get like our lead pad, Atmo things coming in. Bar 33. The main riff comes in. And we're building towards the drop, which happens here, I guess. Oh no, we have a breakdown. And you know, we've got like kind of like counter melody stuff going on here. It's all getting a bit interesting. But what we really want to happen is that beat, and that's going to happen on bar 65. Vocal goes into it. Okay, so what happens here is we get rid of this kind of like sort of counter melody. And then we have this different counter melody instead. So it doesn't just sound like when the drop happens, just the beats coming in. I mean, that can work for this track. I probably thought it didn't or whatever. Let's just have a listen. Actually, let's hope. And you know, this sound's gone out, this sound's come in, so this rhythmic pad thing's coming in. And that's giving us more movement over the drop. So, you know, so even though a lot of the sounds in this mix are placid, we are getting, you know, a bit of movement without going over the top. Then look, this comes back in. We get this other little noise in here. Then we're switching things back round. Just elements coming in and out. And then we have a breakdown. You know, it's kind of minimal or whatever. Give the MC a chance to chat some breeze over the top of it, you know. Give people a chance to experience the cold, fresh air. And then another drop. But what's it all about? Well, it's minimal. This is just drum and bass territory, and I've toned down the bass line, so we're going into like, you know, 3 notes. It's pretty simple, really. But it provides a bit of difference, you know. If you're rinsing the sounds for the whole thing, it's probably going to sound a bit boring. But by having a bit of dynamics in, you know, in terms of the arrangement, you know, it makes it hopefully a more compelling listen. Then the pads come back in. You know, this little sound gets its time to shine. And we're gradually heading back to the main thing. But look, the main riff isn't even in here. And that's just the icing on the cake, and that comes back in. And we revert to the original bass line. Then we bring in the more rhythmic pads. So it's, you know, it's a balancing act of keeping the vibes interesting, but also keeping a consistent feel, keeping things rolling. You get the idea. Just sounds coming in and out. And then we have a beats bassline pad outro. And then just the beats and the bassline. And then just the beats, very handy to mix out of. Also, if you're a Philistine DJ, I've given you a bit of an out here, where you can, you know, you've really got like 32 bars to mix in another track there if you're a coward. Or you can play the whole of my awesome tune like a Chad and then mix out in this bit. You know, play 7 minutes 40 of my tune in your mix. Why not? Okay, so that's basically it. Future Fragments by Chronicle. Order it now, please. Why don't you? And yeah, big ups to ASC. Okay, that's more than enough sustained minor chords for one video. If you like what you've seen, please like and subscribe. Also, please check out the Chronicle Time and Space EP on Curvature. Pre-order link in the description. Also, Chronicle Outer Rings forthcoming on Okbron 61, I believe. Also, please check out my Atmospheric Pads sample pack. And hey, enjoy atmospheric drum and bass. It's wicked. Later.